Thank y'all so much for coming in. Thank y'all for joining us tonight on Kicking It with Kirk.
Thanks for tuning in to the Introvert Dating Success Show.
Welcome to our second edition of Diversity in Lighting.
Tonight's video is super off the cuff.
The first question of the day, plain and simple, is marriage hard?
We're going to be answering a question from a guy. His current girlfriend has been communicating with a toxic ex-boyfriend.
How do we get BIPOCs into these positions of power?
I want to talk about performative activism and why it's so harmful to the Black Lives Matter movement.
So let's dive in it, man.
Revolution, 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 revolution. If you don't like what we're doing, if you don't want to rock with the NFAC, that's cool. Form your own militia.
There is a playbook for this shit. It's not like we have to create it from scratch just because now we're all digital.
We need people who are there on the computer and off of it. You have to be there for the good and the bad. You can't just be there when it's most convenient for you.
If they was really about what they was about, they would have been at all the formations.
But you need to make sure also that Black ideas and Black people creating culture get funded.
It's not just who we see on stage, it's those that they point to at their curtain call.
Listen, have the conversation, be humble, admit what mistakes were made.
These chat rooms can go, boy. This thing has me rolling. Somebody did say, what about the women who be proposing to the men? Should the men take their last name? Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you want to be a part of this fight, you're going to have to learn to be uncomfortable.
Revolution, revolution.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Protest Party.tv. We are so excited to have you here with us today. We have a great panel that we are going to introduce and we're going to welcome. This is the first episode of a series, and this episode is episode number 1 called What's Up Roadie, How You Doing? Okay, I'm Genevieve Nixon-Weems. On IG, it's @superproducer. I'm your moderator for this panel today. My background includes live events, television studio production, award shows, films and music videos, as well as I'm an online brand and marketer. So let's get right into what the episode, What's Up Roadie, How You Doing is about. Let's bring our panelists on. Our first panelist is Maceo Price. Maceo has over 25 years in tour and production management, technical direction, and audio engineering. Then we also have Erica Hayes. Now, Erica Hayes is a filmmaker who directs, produces, and edits documentaries, feature films, music videos, and commercials. Now, check this out. She's also a lighting designer, video director, and DJ, okay? What's up? Now, we also got the incomparable Noelle Jordan. Now, Noelle Jordan is a live event and touring stage manager, a lighting designer, and backline technician. She's recently pivoted a bit to being a digital content producer. So let's welcome them all to What's Up Roadie, How You Doing on protestparty.tv.
Hey.
Thank you. So let's get started with this. Let's get to know you guys a little bit more. So Erica, what was life like for you before the pandemic hit?
Well, thank you so much for that great introduction. This is an honor to be having this conversation with you guys for sure. Before the pandemic hit, I was on tour. Before the pandemic hit, I was on tour in Malaysia, actually. We were doing a Middle East and Asian tour, and I was with a really, really dope artist. And we had just did Egypt, Dubai. We had other cities on the tour, big 10,000 seat festivals and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, shows started getting canceled. And then shows started getting postponed. And then shows started to just disappear, period. So we were supposed to do an extra 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, we had a flight home instead of a flight to the next situation. And even before our shows got canceled, while we were over there, everybody knew the pandemic was there. They were wearing masks, they were doing temperature checks, they were doing all types of preventative measures. They'd already canceled schools and stuff like that. But in America, we're still a little ignorant on the coronavirus. So, March 13th, I came home, and actually March 5th, I came home, and March 13th, they shut down California. And we've been shut down since.
So is that where you are right now in California?
Yes, I'm in California now.
Okay, all right. So Noelle, where were you? What were you doing? What was life like before the pandemic hit?
Life before the pandemic, it was nice. It was on the up and up. I just booked my first tour. Maceo actually pulled me out of my venue, and we were out with this really dope artist, and in the first city, which was close here, but I was ready to be out. And we load in March 12th, we loaded in, and right after sound check, we're done. Like, the governor shut down Maryland. So we were like, all right. And just like Erica said, You know, we were thinking the same thing, like, okay, well, we'll move on to the next city and we'll move, you know, we'll just operate that way, like Corona be damned. Well, everything shut down. And yeah, now I'm here. I've pivoted to working on productions for virtual conferences and doing virtual events. So I've been able to segue a little bit into a different kind of career path, but still be adjacent somehow to events and production. But it's not the same at all. At all.
And so you're still in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia
Yes.
area?
Yes, I am still in the DMV area.
Right, in the area. So Maceo comes with so much knowledge and history. He's been in the game for so long. Maceo, come a little closer so we can see you. There you go. There you go.
Sorry about that.
So where were you? What were you doing before Corona hit?
We were actually in week 2 of our tour, and it was funny because I had just hired Noelle out of her venue to start up with us when we got into the Maryland area. And I remember I got a call on the radio from my assistant telling me to come to the production office, and we got to the production office. A Live Nation rep was in there, and he was just like, so got good news, you got bad news. And I was like, okay, well, give us the bad news first. He was like, well, show's canceled. So I was like, so what's the good news? He's like, well, you don't have to load out until after dinner. And we ate dinner, loaded the trucks back up, and we weren't sure if they would have been canceled the following show. So the Live Nation rep was like, you know what? Go to the next show. I spoke to the agent. He said, go to the next show. Management said, go to the next show. So we loaded up, got on a bus, and probably 3 miles outside of Maryland, we were just told everything's canceled.
Wow.
So we pulled over to a lighting vendor that we knew that we had just literally cross-rented some gear with, and used their shop to cross-pack trucks and exchange gear back up and switch out. And at that point, we were just like, okay, what do we do now? Where are we going to go? So at first, everybody was going to go home, and then we all decided, you know what? We just go to Key West and just take the bus to Key West. just kick it. And we made it as far as Dallas and changed our mind. And everybody just ended up in my house for like a week or 2 while we figured out what life was about. You know, so I don't know, but that's pretty much what it was. And now what it is totally different than how it all started out.
Wow. Wow. So now where are you, Maceo, right now?
I'm in Dallas, Texas.
So you're in Dallas. Okay. So when the shutdown came, you were in DC, well, Maryland area, Maceo.
No, I was actually in my hometown of Baltimore doing it was a hometown show that never happened.
Wow. And Noelle was with you, and Erica was overseas. Right? So also,
you should have stayed.
Say it again.
I would have got stuck.
Right. Right. So Erica, so how was that? You know, you're overseas. Let's talk about that. You're overseas, you're away from family, you're away from home, you know, you're all of a sudden mic drops, everything's shut down. What's your first instinct? What are you thinking in that moment?
I gotta be honest with you. As a Black woman, I knew it was gonna happen and nobody was listening to me. I was like, guys, this coronavirus thing is a thing. Like, they wouldn't be shutting down other countries. And like my tour manager was like, oh, no way, you know, Live Nation is not gonna cancel this. I'm like, no, this is a thing. We need to pay attention. I mean, before we even left for the tour, I did another tour in Australia. And I was in Australia from December to January. And around January 1st is when we started to hear about the coronavirus in China. So I'm in Australia hearing this news about the coronavirus in China. And I'm like, okay, well, they're shutting down flights from China. This is a thing. So yeah, I mean, I knew it was gonna happen. There's nobody wants to listen to me. And even when I came back here, I started, texting my teacher friends. This is in March. I'm like, hey, this coronavirus thing is gonna be a thing. We need to start talking about it, because if you don't get ahead of it, we're gonna have to cancel schools. You have to get ahead of it. And they're like, oh no, they're not gonna cancel schools. It's just too big of a domino effect. Like, you don't understand. They will cancel schools. So I'm like, at least try to, tell parents you're doing something. Try to get try to do some temperature checks. Try to do face masks. Try to do something. Send out an email to parents. Because if you don't tell parents you're doing something, they're gonna pull the plug. And everybody started pulling the plug on every single industry. And even now, after the fact, after we've been out since March, and people are starting to do video shoots again and concerts again and stuff like that, they're going back into it without a new mind state that, we have to do things differently now. I just did this shoot a couple days ago, and the director of the shoot was this guy from Atlanta, very, very talented director, but he was an anti-masker. And I'm like, yo, he's like, yeah, us guys from Atlanta, we don't wear masks. I'm like, that's crazy. That's why we've been shut down so long, for simple things like that. And sir, it's cool that your ego is big enough to be like, I'm not gonna wear a mask, but my career was ended because of this. It was literally stopped, and literally is not gonna go back to normal ever, but things won't even progress until we open our minds up to this fact. So it's unfortunate, and I don't know. I knew it was gonna happen, and I knew that the American ignorance was gonna lead us here. And where do we go from here?
Right. And so you came, you came with a perspective from the jump. You already had a perspective because you were overseas. See, it started overseas, and so, like you said, they immediately pivoted their way of lifestyle. They had the mask, they did temperature checks. They were probably washing hands and doing all of those things and just implemented it seamlessly. But here in America, you already saw it. See, we hadn't seen what it looks like, what it feels like. So coming from overseas and bringing that knowledge back here, you're now saying, hey, this is a situation and we have to adjust like this, but it's not happening. And here we are in August. And now even with reopening specifically in Georgia, we're having to kind of roll back. So, Noelle, what are some of those things that you miss the most about your previous day-to-day schedule?
Oh man, I miss the routine. I miss load-ins. To be honest, miss load-ins, and I really miss load-outs. And the show, just the environment and the people and the atmosphere. Like Erica said, we're not gonna get back to that point. It's not gonna be that again. Not, especially not right now, at least. But my day-to-day routine, that's what I miss the most. Like I miss, during the week or in the mornings, going to the warehouse for Backline and pulling these drum kits and checking gear and testing gear and packing it and then loading the truck. And I miss all of that stuff now. Like I hated like the little things. But yeah, I miss that stuff. Even I was just thinking about it recently, like what did, my long day look like? And do I miss it? And of course I do. That, loading like for a Backline gig, that's loading the gear and bringing it to the location and the venue and loading it up and teching the show and then packing it up and bringing it back and doing a show at the Fillmore the next day. Those are the things that I miss the most, is just being in our element. I really do. I miss it a lot.
Oh man. I mean, you bring me back to my days of load in and load out and sound check. I always loved sound check because everybody was just so chill and relaxed. It wasn't so technical. People were kind of like feeling themselves out and it was just like a vibe to it. And everybody kind of, that's where you kind of like all meshed together. So Maceo, from all the experience you had on the road and all the different type of events and stuff that you have, what do you miss?
I miss my crew.
Yeah.
Like 100% more than anything else. I miss my crew. I miss the little quirks of my crew. I miss Polo sneaking off for a cigarette. You know, I miss Wes not wearing shoes. You know, I mean, I literally, it's just like everyone on our crew had this one little thing about them that I miss. And it's just kind of like, when I think back to all of the good days, the bad days, the arguments, I just miss all of that. You know, I miss Noelle complaining about catering, you know, or, you know, somebody, Gil hiding under a blanket in the front lounge of the bus all day until sound check. You know, it just, you just miss it. And then it just comes, I miss that, calling all departments, you go for show. And then when you hear them say, yeah, we go for show, I miss the fact that nothing mattered but the team to get the job done. And then when it was done, we all just had that high five and that shot and we were back on the bus. I mean, like, I miss that. It's like, it's just, there's nothing like that feeling of closing the door to the truck, opening up the bottle, pouring it in the glass and sitting back and knowing you got to get ready to do it in another 5 hours. You know, so that's what I miss. I miss my team.
Right.
Dang, I miss my team too, dog. Now that you mention it, like I've been thinking about all of the crews that I've worked with, and I really do miss like the teamwork because every production it's not just like artist, audio engineer. It's so many people that go into it, and then when you're on the road with a crew, and you guys like live together, and your family, and you really need each other to get that production up by sound check so that the artist comes in and everything's cool. So yeah, I miss my crew too, man.
Man, I miss the stage hands. I miss the building managers, you know, that security guard that's stuck at the back door that always arguing over your pass. You know, it's just like you don't realize how great of a life we have until it's taken. Like literally, when the industry shut down, it was like putting everybody in the music industry in solitary confinement and saying, you know what, live in this box by yourself. You're talking about 2 weeks, no talk, nobody. That's crazy, you know. But it turned into how many months? That's going almost a year in my mind. It's like it's crazy.
Yeah, it feels like a year.
It does feel
How
like
do you
it.
guys envision like a safe return back to the stage? Like, what does that look like? You know, when we get to come back together with our crew and our family, how do you even envision that looking?
Can I take that?
Mask and beyond the washing of the hands, how does that even work?
I think from a crew standpoint, from a production manager, tour manager standpoint, it'll go back to, okay, I don't have to have that argument over why the heat is never turned on the bus anymore. You know, how do we keep the bus germ free? Why do we wipe the bus down so much? You know, we had just right before the actual day that they canceled the industry, we had went to no one touching the artist mic but me, because I was doing monitors at the time. And it was just like, under no circumstance, even a sound check, do we share mics? We were literally putting in new plans because of the virus 2 weeks too late, you know. And coming back, I think it's going to be the same thing. I think it needs to be a bubble, you know. Backstage needs to be guest free. Dressing room needs to be sealed until artists arrive. And honestly, I would advise against my artists even using dressing rooms anymore. I would put them on their bus, take them off that bus, put them on stage in that bubble, take them off that stage, put them back on the bus, send them down the highway into the next city. And as far as crew, the one good thing about my crew is whenever we went out in our own little isolated little bubbles. You know, we would take a section of the bowling alley, a section of the venue, a section of the club, whatever, and we pretty much stayed to ourselves. That would be the new normal, because now you don't know what you're hanging with and what you might bring back to that bus. And you know, once one person on the bus gets sick, the bus is sick, then the tour is sick, then the tour is over. You know, so I don't know. I think it's going to be a whole lot of don't share this, don't use this, disposable that, you know. And you know, the good thing is no more venue showers, because I'm sure we can argue with the accountants now that we can't use showers in venues. We need hotels every night.
Need those hotels. You can't even cut that out the budget no more.
That's right. That's right.
And I think that's gonna be another thing. They won't be able to cut certain corners like we always cut. You know, we always cut a lot of corners on tour because accounting and budgets and this, that, and the other. But man, I mean, and then who's gonna put their foot down on that? I mean, is that the tour manager? And then what if the tour manager is trying to cut corners and stuff like that? And you know, that starts to get a little tricky.
I tell you this, the tour manager is never the one that's cutting the corners. It always starts with the homie to the artist to the manager to the accountant to the tour manager. But it always starts with the homie that say, they a little too comfortable over there, so you should cut this. And then it just goes around and comes back to us.
Yep.
Right. So Noelle, how do you envision that?
Well, us getting back?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I would defer to Maceo. Like, that's who I would call, even just to think of that, like, what would it look like? Because short of these pocket little concerts that they have popping up where like I saw one, it's like a sea of risers and in an open like parking lot. So I would be like, okay, I guess that I could see now, because you know it's implementing social distancing, but long term, people want that experience again of meeting new people, of standing at least in a room together. I don't see right now how we can do that without me going to Maceo first.
Right. Yeah, so it's interesting. So as a producer, and I'm thinking like in so many aspects as how many things we touch together, from the stage door handle to imagine craft services. Everybody would probably have to have their own box, you know, with some wrapped seal, and just all the different things that like you said, dressing rooms and makeup you would change, you know, would share. And there's just so many things, you know, like Maceo said, even the mic, because even as a producer, somehow I'd be holding Patti LaBelle's mic until she could run back and do something, and you know, all of that. So there's just so many precautions that would have to go with a live event, let alone, you know, some of the festivals. Imagine the bathrooms, you know, the porta potties and all of that. There's just so many aspects to that. And then, you know, what you were saying, Noelle, I did some research on how, you know, people are kind of adapting to that. And one thing that Keith Urban recently did is he had a drive-through movie, like a drive-through movie experience where he had the stage set up and he performed live with just like a skeleton crew. And then all the healthcare workers, it was like 125 different cars came, and they were all in their cars and they were spread out and, you know, designated distance. But, you know, that might be a kind of beginning to get back to experiencing that live, you know, music experience without having to kind of be in each other's space, you know? So
I think the biggest problem with that is going to be, from a production standpoint, you can't pay for those shows. Like the average venue right now is 300 vehicles. So even if you put 4 people in each car, you know, you still don't have enough gate to pay for a larger act, unless the acts finally realize your glory days of $1 million a show, 250,000 a show is over. It's like this now time for the artist to suffer a little bit too. You're gonna have to take less money because your crew is still gonna have to do the same work. So it's unfair to say, well, your crew should take less money. No, you should finally take less money and reinvest back into your production now. Because even when you looked at that one you was talking about, Noelle, with the stages was here, then you had the different risers and decks. Each one of those decks is a $75 to $150 a deck. That has to be paid for. Then you have to have twice as many stagehands now to set it up if it has to come down and go back up. So now what are we throwing that in the truck, or is Live Nation going to say we're going to incorporate that into the venue now as a permanent fixture? So which doesn't really help us, because if we got a rolling stage, that can't be set up until the stage rolls. I mean, so it's unsustainable. It looks great, it makes us feel good, it makes us want to get back to work, but unfortunately, it'll be a fad that works until people realize that it no longer works. We have to get to a point where we can be able to put numbers back in buildings and people can actually touch each other. Because if you take a 10,000 seat building, which we're already cutting down the 7,500 to 8,000 because we put the stage at one end, now you tell them they can only put 3,000 people in there. The building cost didn't go down. Trucking costs didn't go down. Fuel didn't go down. Audio didn't go down. So now you're still gonna have to invest all of that money into it. Now you're telling the promoter he can only make $20. He's not gonna do that show. So I think it's a little more than, you know, social distancing. It's how do we get back to a sustainable industry? You know, I mean, because if not, we need bigger venues. It's like, well, you can take a festival now and do an arena show. Because right now your arena is a theater show and your theater is a club show and your movie theater is your new club show. So the industry is now going to have to evolve into a sustainable program that works. And I think that is what people need to start focusing on, because I mean, Keith Urban does a lot of shows. He'll do a tour for $1 a show, you know, $1 ticket. Hip hop won't do that. You know, I mean, CMG does a $10 show for the 10th album or something like that. But telling artists that you're gonna do this whole tour and all you're gonna make is $150,000 total plus minus your expenses, it's unsustainable. That they just won't go out. They'll just sit home and do live stream stuff, and we won't work. So we need to come up with something. I would love to see somebody sit down and come up with, you know, a roundtable meeting about how do we make a sustainable industry with the way this industry is, because the drive-in shows are great. I mean, I've modeled some out. I've actually literally sent budgets on them, but it's not sustainable.
Right.
So,
right.
Sorry. I think I cut somebody off. I apologize.
No, that was great. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I mean, even to add to that, if you ladies wanted to add to it, is that, you know, there are these newfound avenues, like Travis Scott, right? Because you were talking about hip hop artists, right? So Travis Scott did a concert within Fortnite, right? So they're thinking about all these different ways, you know what I mean? Now people are doing these quarantine themed music videos from home, and they're doing their own hair and makeup, and you see the difference, right? And then you have, you know, TikTok, right? So TikTok is really helping a lot of these artists because the music is going viral because of these dances and everything. So it's helping the spins, right? It's helping all of that. But so let me also segue into the DJs, right? So the DJs are doing phenomenal. A lot of them, especially like D-Nice, clearly is doing phenomenal because they're literally home. But the people now, the audience, right? the audience, so don't forget about the audience, right? We're stuck at home, but now we're in the same bubble you're in, right? But now we're feeling like, okay, we're a part of something. We're getting that feeling, the chat is going, but there's nothing like that live performance. So be it TikTok, be it quarantine videos, be it Fortnite, be it whatever, we still haven't kind of as an industry kind of come up with, like you said, a sustainable way. You guys want to add to that, Noelle and Erica?
I agree. I definitely think some people think that we're going back to normal and they're still stuck on that. And I think it's going to take some time for them not to get stuck on that before we can have some real conversations. Because, I mean, if you're still trying to plan this tour in the fall and you're not even having these conversations, you're like, oh, no, they're going to open back up. Oh, no, woo, woo. I'm like, okay, this is going to take us a year or two to even have these real conversations. You know, it's going to take too many businesses, too many venues going out of business, too many production companies liquidating all of their assets. It's going to take somebody like a Four Wall to go out of business for artists to be like, oh, wait, all right. Okay, let's talk now. And maybe not, because, you know, maybe, you know, at the very beginning of this, I hate mentioning this guy's name, but at the very beginning of this, Donald Trump said that, you know, we're at the war with this coronavirus and there's going to be a lot of businesses going out of business and there's going to be a lot of new business owners. You know, there's going to be a lot of restaurants that's going to go out of business, but then there's going to be someone who's going to come back and buy that restaurant and make a new business. So, you know, maybe those big companies have to go out of business for our small companies to come up and really, you know, grow. But I don't know, man. It's also going to take some of these artists to be like, all right, I've been sitting at home for the last 3 months and this house that I'm renting for $20,000 a month ain't going to pay for itself. You know, all these cars that I'm renting for, you know, $5,000-$6,000 a month ain't going to pay for itself. I still got payroll. Maybe they don't, because some artists are slimy like that. They just like, they're not going to pay their people if they're not getting paid. But that's also another conversation that we need to have, because, you know, even when we do these venues or these concerts at these venues and stuff like that, you know, they will pay for the gear. They will pay for the gear up front. They will pay for the venue up front. They will pay for their insurance up front, but try to put their team on a net 30 or a net 2 weeks or a net whatever, call me back and then chase me for this money after the fact. But like, I don't know, some things have to change, and whether or not we care about our teams and our people, that's something that's going to be a big part of this change. I mean, sheesh.
Yeah, I would say in regards to these video stream, these live streams that they're doing, everybody wants to see, you know, oh, their latest performance to their new song, and how are they gonna, you know, creatively present this to the world. Nobody's asking about the crew. It's not possible without the crew. You want this same level production that you got 7 months ago now. You want us to make a whole mountain out of a molehill and give you this $1 million budget with the money you can afford, because none of us are working. And it's like nobody's talking about that. Nobody's thanking us for that. It really is a thankless job. We're the first ones blamed and the last ones recognized. And throughout this, it's taking a toll on our mental. Let's just be real. Let's just call it out.
Right. So that's what I was about to ask you next, is how was your mental that first, you know, 3 months, and how is it now that we, you know, about 7-8 months in?
I'm doing better. I have this platform now, because this is something that I know I'm not dealing with alone. That's why I wanted us to have this conversation. I've been journaling just to get it out. I thank God I have a roommate, because if I was living alone, like so many of us are, I don't know. I really don't. But I'm very mindful of my mental health, and I take it very seriously. And I know that this is the most trying time for us. So I'm taking it literally day by day.
That's the only way to do it. I mean, because you figure a lot of us are used to being around people. And when you take that away, when you take a person who's used to solving everybody else's problems for a living, and then you sit them home and tell them to sit back and solve your own problems, you start finding you got a lot of problems that you weren't aware of. You know what I'm saying? So it's good that everybody has a person, even if it's just one person, that you can call no matter what time of day, what time of night, regardless of what they're doing, and they will pick up the phone and just listen. Because there are times when you just really just want somebody to listen to your problems versus you always listening and solving their problems. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what's important, because right now, a lot of people in the industry are unstable, wondering, can I eat tomorrow? Are the lights going to be on tomorrow? What happens if my kids need something and I can't do it? And Lord, Christmas is coming up. So a lot of people who have not worked in 7, 8, 9 months are going to go into Christmas wondering, what are my kids going to look at when they wake up in the morning? You know, that's going to add more stress. You know, so I mean, this pandemic situation, especially for the people who had no financial way out, is just going to introduce new problems mentally that they may or may not be ready to address. You know what I'm saying? So it's a scary situation. You know, all I can say is be there for the ones that you don't hear from, because those are the ones who need the most help. The ones that don't say anything are the ones going through it the most, and they just don't know that they can talk to you about it. You know what I'm saying? So check on your people. Check on people that you work with that have not said anything to you, and just let them know if they need you, you're there for whatever it is, whether it's food, money, gas, a ride, a conversation, or just to drop a Bible off. You know, just let them know. You know, just it's time for us to not be so selfish, because for us always being out there for each other, when the pandemic hit, we became real selfish and stopped worrying about each other and only started worrying about ourselves. You know, and I know I got people that I call when I need to call somebody, you know, one sitting right there, you know what I'm saying? But we need to be there for each other, you know, because every now and then, some of us just need somebody to talk to, and we just don't know who we can call that'll listen.
Right. Like they say, check on your strong friends, right? So Erica, where were you? You know, we know you were overseas, but then when you came home, you know, that first 3 months, unpacking and sitting in the midst of it, and where are you now mentally?
Yikes. That the first 3 months was really tough. I'm not even gonna hold you up. I mean, I especially going while I was in it, there were so many people on social media posting so much positive stuff, and it was just like, this is not reality. Like, ain't no way you just had all your shit get canceled and you just so happy. Like, fuck y'all. Sorry, you know. But anyway, the first couple of weeks was rough. I ain't even gonna lie. I was really depressed, and I didn't think anybody understood what it really meant to be around thousands of people every day, getting really good money every week or every 2 weeks or whatever the case may be, per diem, all that stuff, traveling, whatever. And now my passport don't even mean nothing. You know, like I can't even leave the country if I could pay somebody to let me leave the country. Like, so, I mean, it was really hard at first. But I did a strong pivot, you know, started a couple other businesses and, you know, selling things on Amazon and making face masks and stuff like that. And it's definitely not only kept my bills paid, but kept my mind busy and stuff like that. But yeah, it was tough. It was definitely tough. And then trying to tell people like, You know, people kept hitting me up during the first, you know, couple of weeks, like, hey, you know, can I book you for this? I'm like, no, you can't book me. It's canceled. It's canceled. I'm not, you know, and I want to do your gig, but your gig is not gonna happen. And every time somebody was like, all right, we got something going on in April, we got something going on in May, and I'm like, no, you don't, you know. But like it came to a point where I stopped doing pre-production for people. I'm like, this is so pointless. It's actually even more depressing that you have me trying to call this venue and trying to do advance this gig that's not gonna happen, because there's no way to do this concert when they want us to have less than 10 people in a room, you know. So it was tough. But where am I at now? I don't know. I don't know where I am now. I'm still figuring it out. And now that I'm actually saying it out loud, like, wow, I actually don't know where I am. Where am I?
Well, you're here with us, okay? On
Yeah,
Protest Party TV. Thank you for that. And I mean, and as much as, you know, we're talking about the artists too, because imagine their mindset too. All these adoring fans and, you know, all these people catering to them, and then boom, you know, they're by themselves. Mentally, I can't even imagine what some of them might be going through. But so let's kind of go further into the conversation. Now we're here, right? We're here. It is what it is, and we're trying to navigate through it. We're trying to deal with daily life, daily bills, and all of that, and try to keep ourselves inspired and focused on what we're doing. But have you guys ventured, you know, beyond your comfort zone and considered kind of pivoting and switching careers into something like you never thought of or never tried? Have you, you know, Erica's holding her head. Come on, Erica. What?
Yeah, you know, there was this new ad campaign that the Trump administration pulled out, like, just find a new career. They had people doing welding jobs and construction jobs and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I've been doing this for a little over 13 years now. And yeah, I guess I could go into construction. I guess I could get a welding job. But I think I'm just gonna try to pivot within this situation and convince people to adapt to this new normal. And that's another reason why, you know, we've created Protest Party and stuff like that. We wanted to give an outlet for people, because yeah, you can go live on Instagram, you can go live on Facebook, YouTube, and all that stuff. But you know, you can watch DJs go live on Instagram, and then all of a sudden their feed gets cut out because they played a certain song. You know, and the same thing with Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that. So that was the reason for us creating our own platform, our own safe space. You know, you can't block us here. You can't kick us off here, you know. So yeah, man, I've been also thinking about a welding job too.
Don't do it, girl. Don't do it. You're way too talented. Way too talented for that. Noelle, I know you started to pivot a bit. You kind of got into more of the digital production.
Yes.
What else are you, you know, you dabbling into, and explain, you know, how you pivoted into that?
I actually pivoted into that. I worked with District Motherhood, which is an organization here in Washington, D.C. for Millennium Mothers of Color. And their annual conference, the Momference, this year had to pivot and go digital. And one of the co-founders of the organization is one of my best friends, Simona Noche Wright. And she asked if I could come and help out with AV for the conference. And with, you know, knowing my background, so I was like, of course, yeah, I'll help out. Now realizing that it was a whole production, realizing the magnitude of you're essentially taking an in-person experience and recreating that online. And the way that we were just able, especially myself, was able to just shift and really align with it, it seemed only right. It was very natural for me to pivot to digital conferences and events, what have you. But yeah, that's where I started. It was I helped out with the Mom French, just helping out with AV. And from there, I joined the Urban League. And about 2 weeks ago, they had their Eastern Regional Conference. And so I was on the production team for that as well. And it just fit. It just seems like, you know, well, it seems to be coming to me in my alley, and people are, you know, seeing that maybe I can add some insight and input into their productions that they're trying to bring digitally. And I like it. I really do. It's not as many people, but it still works. Like there's still that element of live. And I like that. That's the one aspect I think that I love the most about our industry is it's live in that element. And so being able to bring that to the digital space has definitely helped out as far as my mental is concerned with getting through this as well and finding a sustainable career post-COVID.
Right. Well, congratulations for that. I mean, I know there's a lot of people probably in our chats and that will watch this and be inspired by that. So Maceo, you want to be a welder? Do you want to be a cook? You know, you want to be a fashion designer? What you want to do, Maceo?
I've always been a cook, but stock market
chef.
Is just like, I'm cool.
So you like the stock market?
Oh, always have.
All right.
Always have.
Maceo, we can talk offline. That's a good business. Trust me, my stock just split yesterday, baby. Trust me.
It's funny because one of mine split yesterday too. We'll talk about it.
We can talk offline, okay? Maceo about to hire his own crew. We all going on the road. You get a room. So, so Erica, I see you there. I think come back.
I'm here.
Twisted your I think your camera. Okay.
Yeah, but it's cool on the screen.
Okay, there you go. I just want to make sure you're good. So Erica, you talked about you would be a welder or something, and somebody in the chat put the welder.
Hey.
But
I think it's actually a good skill to know, because even as a lighting designer, we do weld some things, especially like set pieces and lights, custom lights and stuff.
Lighting trusses.
Yeah, so it's a good skill to know.
It is. Actually, my niece who lives in Jersey, she's actually became a welder because she wanted to get into the entertainment business, and she realized she could actually be an integral part of the set design and of lighting and everything. So she actually is a welder now. So it's the truth. So what life lessons have we learned, from all of this? What are you learning? What has it taught you? Like, what are you walking away from this whole craziness of 2020, walking away saying, wow, this was a life lesson here? Maceo?
Oh, just a couple things. One, I realized more than ever, I still hate to drive. Two, you never have enough food in your house. I went through Katrina. So with Katrina, as soon as this happened, I was like, deep freezers, food, cow, and we stocked up on everything. The other thing is, I realized that as many, I've been doing this so long that I've never been alone. And that's a different feeling. It's just kind of like, what do you mean I have no load in? I have no load out. I have nothing to advance. I'm not worried about catering. I don't have to worry about flights. For the first time in 16, 17 years, I am not executive platinum. What does that mean? How does that happen? You know what I'm saying? So I've realized that I've been around the world and through a bunch of passports, but I've never seen anything. I've never done anything. So I think, honestly, it's a good time next time we go back around, to actually stop and actually enjoy what's there, because you never know when the shit just won't be, when it just won't be there. You know what I'm saying? Because the industry ended in a day, completely. And it, like, if you could talk to bus companies who literally 150 tours dropped dead in a day. You know, we were on one tour. Erica was on another tour. Imagine how many of our friends and family were on tours that just ended. And for the rest of the year, nobody had anything on their calendar that they could say, yes, I will be there. You know what I'm saying? So I think the one thing I learned the most, in short, is have a plan B, because plan A just might disappear overnight.
Yeah. Noelle?
For me, it is to value time and space with others. I think that was just, something we took for granted or didn't realize how important and precious it really is. Just spending time with people, sharing a laugh, sharing a moment with people. That's the biggest thing for me, because I feed off of that, like off of other people's energy. And when you don't have that, it's like wow, I didn't realize how important this was to me and how much I valued that, because I miss it so much. And so when I am able to see somebody, be it, a social distance drive-by birthday shout out, I'm there honking my horn to share in this moment, because they're all precious.
Mm-hmm. Erica?
Sheesh. I've learned that my house is my kingdom and my safe haven, and that my home should be the most comfortable and most peaceful and most exciting and most everything that I could need should be at home. And that's what I built over these last couple of months. I mean, even before this all happened, I was always making my home a safe haven and stuff like that. But now, especially when we have these stay-at-home orders and you can't go anywhere and stuff, like, it's so important for my home to be comfortable. And in that comfort, that's my husband being happy. That's my son being happy. That's, at one point my parents were staying here during the middle of COVID, and it was great to have them here because I could, lock them in their room and make sure they were staying safe and stuff like that. But yeah, I just house. It used to be like, is my client happy? Is my client cool? Is my client house all right? Is my client production okay? Does my client have everything they need? And now I'm like, let me just go plant a garden. My priorities are changing a little bit.
Right. Well, I mean, I agree with all of you. I think for me personally, like just like you, Erica, what's crazy is right in March when this whole COVID thing started happening, my mother I'm in Florida right now. My mother came to visit me from Brooklyn, and she was just about to fly back to New York, and I was going to fly back to my house in DC. And something was just in the air about this corona, and I just told my husband, and he was actually in Maryland. I was like, we're not coming. He was like, what do you mean you're not coming? I was like, it's something in my gut, and how I am about my instinct. I was like, I'm not getting on a plane, and I'm not doing it. We're going to stay here. So he wound up coming. I wound up canceling my mother's flight. My mother is still here with me, okay? My mother is still here. My actually, sadly, my husband's mother passed from COVID about 2.5 months ago. Thank you. About 2.5 months ago. And his dad came and stayed with us for about 8 weeks. And he wound up going back to Baltimore recently. And now I've decided I'm homeschooling my son who's 5 years old, which is a whole new thing, right? And so on top of that, I also own my own businesses. I'm getting my online brand going. But one of the things that I have definitely realized in this year, so I started this year so strong in my brand. I was doing my lives. I had like my production laid out, like I was ready to go. And then COVID hit and I was like, oh shit, like, what do we do? And what I realized though, even though we're in August, we still have so much time to get stuff done. And I have realized that I've spent too much time sitting on my own talents, sitting on my own ideas, you know, procrastinating and waiting for other people to make, you know, give me permission to, or feel like the whole situation is perfect. And now that it's perfect, this is the time to come out. No more procrastination, no more BS, no more waiting for anything to be perfect. Just go out and do it. Carpe diem, because you never know if you have more time. You just don't know. And the way this Corona thing and COVID hit, I mean, it doesn't even give you time to kind of, you know, wind it down. You know, you literally, it's a matter of days. You see somebody and then a couple of days later, they're gone. So all of these brilliant ideas and all of the things that we have in us, I would encourage everybody who's watching this and everybody in the chats, and of course, my panelists, go for it. Make no excuses about it. You know, one of my my mentors, actually, who I've interviewed and worked with before, one of the things he said, he's famous for asking this question. The question is, what is the richest place in the world? And so I'll ask each of you this. Noelle, what's the richest place in the world? Unmute yourself. Say it again.
You said the richest place in the world?
Yes.
Is that the quote where like all of the dreams are?
Yep.
So it's a grave.
You already know that. So Maceo, what's the richest place in the world?
We're muted. Oh yeah, Mace.
Unless it's a trick question, I would say the richest place in the world would be my mind.
Okay, there you go, Erica.
Yeah, I was going down that same road. Like my heart is the richest place in the world.
Okay, exactly. That's how brilliant y'all are. Exactly. So that quote, that question comes from Les Brown. He says the richest place in the world is actually the cemetery, because it's where architecture and art and music and books and everything that you could think of goes and dies, because people wait their whole life for all of these other things to be in place before they write those books and they write those symphonies and they create those that fashion or build that building and, you know, program something, whatever it is. So what I've learned, and what I'm encouraging everyone here, is that, you know, our conversation started out with, you know, what's up, Roadie? How you doing? And how this COVID has, you know, pivoted us in our life and how we've kind of become stagnant. But I would encourage us all to actually use this time to lean into those talents and lean into those gifts that only we have. And you might come out of this COVID experience with actually more than what you went into it with. So I just want to encourage everybody that. I want to also encourage you guys to come back next Tuesday. Next Tuesday is part 2 of touring, tour and management. Come right here to protestparty.tv. And you'll be also joined by a mental health advocate who has firsthand experience in the field. I just want to thank you all for being here with me. Noelle, thank you so much for this opportunity to be here and moderate. Maceo, thank you so much. Erica, thank you so much. You guys are phenomenal in all that you do, and I encourage you all to follow them on social media platforms. Definitely follow protestparty.tv. And we look forward to having you back here for this series. This is an 8-part series. So just share it. Make sure you share this on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and let all your friends know to come to protestparty.tv and check out the real story of what's happening behind the scenes in production during this time of COVID. Thank you all so much for joining us. And I hope to see you soon. Again, I'm Genevieve Nixon-Weems. You can follow me on IG at Super Producer. And God bless you all. Take care.
Thank y'all so much for coming in. Thank y'all for joining us tonight on Kicking It with Kirk.
Thanks for tuning in to the Introvert Dating Success Show.
Welcome to our second edition of Diversity in Lighting.
Tonight's video is super off the cuff.
The first question of the day, plain and simple, is marriage hard?
We're going to be answering a question from a guy. His current girlfriend has been communicating with a toxic ex-boyfriend.
How do we get BIPOCs into these positions of power?
I want to talk about performative activism and why it's so harmful to the Black Lives Matter movement.
So let's dive in it, man.
Revolution. If you don't like what we doing, if you don't want to rock with the NFAC, that's cool. Form your own militia.
There is a playbook for this shit. It's not like we have to create it from scratch just because now we're all digital.
We need people who are there on the computer and off of it. You have to be there for the good and the bad. You can't just be there when it's most convenient for you.
If they was really about what they was about, they would have been at all the formations.
But you need to make sure also that Black ideas and Black people creating culture get funded.
It's not just who we see on stage, it's those that they point to at their curtain call.
Listen, have the conversation, be humble, admit what mistakes were made.
These chat rooms can go, boy. This thing has me rolling. Somebody did say, what about them women who be proposing to their men? Should the men take their last name? Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you want to be a part of this fight, you're going to have to learn to be uncomfortable.
Revolution.
We don't need all these cops. We don't need no Billy Club. Y'all done enough.
Enough is enough!
Somebody imagined shackles on Black wrists, and yet people believed it to make it true. Somebody imagined borders, and enough people believed it to make it true. Somebody imagined police, and enough people believed it to make it true. So we have to be the diviners of change, the disruptors of truth. We must imagine differently.
We have to stop the nonsense and take back our community, and we have to police ourselves. Fight like Ali for your life.
This event has been deemed an unlawful assembly. You need to disperse to the east now. Failure to comply with this lawful order may subject you to arrest and forced
System of policing has got to go.
Say her name! Who looks like they're dressed for a riot? Us or them?
Our lives matter. Black lives matter.
Black lives matter. It could have been me. It could have been you. It could have been anybody out here, man.
One injustice, one place is an injustice in every place. And we gotta come together.